Well, I'm very, very pleased to share with you this story, which I think has lessons for many people, but particularly it is for me, and that's why I suppose it came into my brain. But it's about this little bird who lives in the forest, and as birds fly by, he kind of shouts at them, like he jeers, just whatever his opinion is that he thinks is so important about the place. And so a parrot comes past and he shouts, "Oh, you've got your beak is so short and stubby!" And the parrot just stops and is quite surprised and thinks, "Who the hell are you?" And so he lands on a branch next to the little bird, and winks at him and plucks off a little nut and puts it in his mouth and cracks it open and guzzles it down and feels very satisfied with himself that even though his beak is so short and stubby, it allows him to do this. And he flutters off and hopes that the little bird has maybe noticed that he doesn't know everything. But nonetheless, a hummingbird buzzes by and the little bird shouts, "Your beak is so long and thin, it looks like it could just snap off." And the hummingbird is like, doesn't have quite the same sense of humour as the parrot, and he starts to, he's a little bit annoyed, and so he rather sassily flutters his way into a flower, and I need to do something better with these, and slurps down some delicious nectar, and again feels rather satisfied with himself, and his sense of pride and his incredible body is unshaken, and he buzzes off, or hums off, whatever a hummingbird does. So the little bird is also again like, "Ooh, interesting," and waves him off goodbye, but nonetheless his attention span is so short that when he sees the pelican arriving, he's just so shocked that he can't by how flappy and floopy it is that he goes ahead and tells the pelican this. "Your beak is so flappy and floopy." And the pelican, he doesn't mind either. He just rolls his eyes and opens his beak and to reveal the fish that is happily swimming around in there and that he has caught with this magnificent appendage to the front of his face. And with the tip of his head or whatever, slurps the fish, guzzles the fish down, and again this somewhat surprises the little bird. And he actually his beak is so marvellous and big and saggy that it can carry water that he can deliver to his babies. Even, if they're in the salt deserts or wherever. Yeah, and so he drinks the water down and the babies are very happy and he flies off. And the little bird is, just watches and, lets that another lesson of life sink in. How amazing it is, the variety that we all possess. And as he watches in awe at the amazingness of the pelicans, he again gets distracted and forgets maybe about what he might have just learned. And a horn-billed toucan comes along. And now these toucans have got such an extraordinary beak that the little bird really cannot help himself. And it's like, what is that? What is that? Is it a hat? Is it a beak? What even is that? Can you even call that a beak? And to his shock and maybe slight horror, the toucan hears him and starts to circle back and actually lands on the branch next to the little bird. And says to the little bird, "So tell me, little bird, what," have you got this one? "What can your beak do?" And to the surprise of the toucan, the little bird actually bursts into tears. He's going to go up there and hopefully not blow away. And after enduring the little bird's slightly self-indulgent mourning for his pride, the toucan then says, the little bird says, "I don't know, there's nothing special about my beak. It's just so boring and normal." And the toucan says, "Well, have you tried using it to express gratitude?" Ooh. And the little bird looks maybe a wee bit sheepish and looks about him and spots a cockerel minding his own fine business down below, pecking about. And he shouts down to the cockerel. The cockerel's obviously like, "Oh my God, what?" Everyone knows the little bird and what comes out of his mouth. He's preparing himself for some verbal abuse, unsolicited opinions about himself. And in fact, the little bird, so this is the cockerel staring up at the little bird like, "Oh yeah? What have you got to say then, little bird?" Oh, I must be so sweaty. And maybe the little bird looks at the toucan again for reassurance, and he looks down and he says, "Cockerel, when you cock-a-doodle-doo in the morning, it wakes me up, and that means I get to watch the sunrise, and it actually tends to be the most beautiful part of my day. Thank you." Thank you. And the cockerel is quite surprised by this, but it's quite nice to know that nonetheless, that just him being him is welcome and appreciated. And this feels good as well for the little bird. And so when he sees the hummingbirds flutter by, he's got an idea. And he shouts, "Hummingbirds, when you flutter past, you make a breeze, and it cools me down. And I really appreciate that about you guys. Thank you." Yeah. What a pleasure to share the forest with you. And he's on a roll now, so he actually gets so excited that he lifts up off of the branch when he sees the parrots. And he shouts up at the parrots, "Parrots, your plumages are so colourful and beautiful. It's so inspiring." And the toucan looks on very pleased, because as the little bird begins to express his love and gratitude and appreciation for the other members of the forest, his voice becomes more melodic and tuneful. What? Here we go. This might be a bit busy. I'll put it on the side. And he shouts after the little bird, "Little bird, that's what your beak can do. Your beak can bring such joy to people." But the little bird doesn't even hear him, because he's just off singing his sweet heart out. Where is he? There he is. There he is. He doesn't even hear the toucan saying this, because he's off singing his heart out in the forest. And that's the story of the little bird.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
No, that's it.